Hello everyone. I want to go over a shorter time frame of using spreads. So last time we looked at GNRC and going out into December, which that might be good if you believe that the stock is going to maybe stabilize some, and you're just putting basically a floor under it, but not trying to take care of some adverse condition that's currently going on. So at GNRC, we know it's been dripping down, and what we want to do to hedge that is use a shorter spread that's going to expire much quicker. One reason to do that is because as we approach the expiration, we start getting our credit. But leading into the expiration, the further we are away from expiration, we're not really getting much credit at all. So we're going to just take a quick look at that, and then we're going to see what it looks like when we do it on a shorter time frame. And then this is going to apply if we're going to go with index spreads as well, and using spreads on other stocks. So I'm going to start off building up the spread like we did before. So right now GNRC is at 101. We're going to look at the 100, and actually we're going to go ahead and do this on December 16th just so we can see what the longer dated options look like. We'll go ahead and go to probably 95. We probably would want to go down to 90 in some cases, but we want to close the gap on the debit that's going to be created so we can then sell a put that's going to offset the debit. So here's what I mean by that. So we're going to sell the 95. We need to cover this 220 debit. So if we just went on with this spread right now, we would pay this debit. So we can go down here to the 85, and that is going to create a credit because we're selling this 85 put. And there we have a 15-cent credit. So this way we're not having to pay for this hedge if we're going to hold it all the way to expiration. So we're going to go ahead and analyze this now. All right. And the current day is 11:05. This is going to go to December 16th. So if we were to put this on at the current price, here we are right here. And this is going to cost us it's probably going to cost us a little bit depending on what the spread is doing. This is saying maybe $3.51. And then if this moved quickly against us on the first day down to, well, let's say $95, about right here would be basically $81 under, $80.98. All right, but as we go forward in time, this is what it's going to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and click these dates. So November 10th, and as you can see, the purple line is going to come up to the blue line, which means we're approaching expiration, and so we're getting our credit. So the credit is just going to go ahead and approach the credit we'll receive as we get towards expiration. So now we're at December 10th, and again, this is going to expire on the 22nd. So now if GNRC went to 95, we would have a credit, so $280. And this is what's going to happen as we go ahead and approach expiration. It's just going to meet the blue line and become the blue line, and here we are, we're at expiration, and we have credit going all the way down to the below the put at 85, so we can go all the way down to 80, basically break even on this hedge. But what if we don't have that amount of time and we need to hurry up and get the hedge on? So if we go all the way back to the beginning, let's go to something closer to the current time frame, maybe November 10th. This isn't really working very well, right? Because let's say that now GNRC is going to 100 and just slowly is dripping down. Eventually, maybe on the 11th, it's going to be at 98. And if it's at 98, then we're going to be at a minus $6.14 per contract. So we're going to look at a shorter dated hedge and see how that reacts. So notice down here, we're all the way protected all the way down to $80, at least at expiration. And the maximum of this would be the final put at 85. So we're going to keep that in mind, that 85 is where we trail off. We start trailing off, we lose our maximum credit. I'm going to delete this. We're going to go back, create a new spread. We're going to choose November 11th, so the same week, which will be the case that we'll have to do that sometimes. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and choose some round numbers here. We're going to start with 100. Going to buy. We want to create a small gap that we can cover with the put when we create this debit. So we're going to go with the 98. And we could look at this a little bit more. Maybe the 95, 96 might work. Let's go ahead and try 97 and see what we got. 125. So we can go down to $95. In 1 week, do we think this is going to go down to $95? So my modeling says yes, that can happen. And then we're going to look at what Thinkorswim says. So we're going to go ahead and add this to cover and create our credit. So we just wrote that put at 95. Remember, the other one was at 85, giving it a lot of room. But again, as you go out in time, the probabilities expand. So the range of price expands. But this isn't that far out. So we're going to November 11th. So the cone, the probability cone, if you think of it as an upside down cone, where you're starting at the small side of the cone, as you go forward in time, the cone widens. So there's not a chance for it to get as wide in such a small time frame. So 95 maybe is good. Let's go ahead and look at that, and then we're going to add some quantitative analysis to it to determine, is that really a good time frame? So up here we have the probabilities. I'm going to bring this back to the 11th right there, and it's sitting around the price over here with a 68% probability. What if we want to go ahead and bring this up to 90? And even at 90, we're not hitting 95 on our bottom put. So that is looking pretty good. And if we go to 95%, it's just under. So this has a pretty good chance of working, basically, is what it's saying. And if I go down here, we're going to go ahead and start on, say we wrote this on the 7th. And this is what we look like now. So we would, current price right here, on the first day, we should have a credit, $20. So this thing's burning theta pretty quick. Unlike before we saw on the first day, we might have a debit, but the theta is going to burn extremely quick on this within the first few days. And if this remains stable, the underlying remains stable, then that theta is just going to burn like a fire. So that's why we're getting a credit right off the bat. And we would have the credit on the one contract, so the one bundle of the multi-leg here, we would take $20 in. And if we go ahead and look, well, if this goes down to 98, you can see our line here, we're going to be getting into a debit scenario. So we may close it out. If that starts happening, it starts moving against us that fast. This is only the first day though. So let's see what would happen if we go out to the 9th. And at that point, if it starts moving against us, we still have a little bit of credit. So we could afford to sit here, maybe wait it out is kind of what it amounts to. So this could go down to 98, could go down to 97. But if we just continue to see if it stabilizes a bit, the underlying stabilizes a bit, stops going down, then we could just keep holding this to expiration. And we would eventually, if it doesn't go below 95, doesn't go below our lowest put, we would collect $320. So how does that square with our cost basis? So we have right here 18.82 deltas on this. Again, it's a credit, it's like selling a put, so we'll get the negative deltas here. And we have 200 shares of GNRC. That's basically going to be 200 deltas. So one way to look at this, take 200 divided by 18.82 is going to be 10 of these, which would provide basically the entire protection down to 95. So what does that look like? If it goes down to 95, that's $3,200. Then you would just take that and basically offset it against your cost basis. So if we think about this kind of whenever we're covering this, let's say with 2 calls, so 200 shares, 2 calls, and if those calls brought in $1, then we would go ahead and decrease the cost basis by $1. Right now the cost basis in our GNRC is $216.95, so that would bring it down to $215.95. However, here it's not going to do much because we've kicked this up to 10 of these spreads to match 200 shares of GNRC, and we're only taking in 20 cents of credit. So that's not going to have much of an effect at $216.95 on the cost basis. That's only going to bring it down to $216.75. but we have some hedging that we're doing as well to protect our downside a little bit. So it's not going to do much to the cost basis, but then we get the downside protection. So this is what it looks like whenever we're doing these shorter dated puts. It's going to be generally a bit less credit that we'll take in, but it's going to provide some protection if that stock just continues to drip down. So we're getting pretty close to implementing this, and you may, in the newsletter, I'll start talking about what the format of it's going to look like. You're basically going to see the 3 different buy, sell, sell. So you'll see the strikes. Then I'll have a cost that we're probably getting in at. The spreads can be a little bit wide, so that's going to be a bit tricky, but overall we should be able to get a credit on that. And given that it's not going to affect the cost basis on GNRC that much, we're probably going to do that on calls. We'll still go ahead and offset it, but it's not going to be the primary thing. We'll let the calls try and help us with that, and then any kind of appreciation that we can get in the underlying. All right, well, thank you for watching.